He's not fake yesterday.
How bad? I just like hit
I stole it from his pocket.
Oh.
You don't fire him.
All right, listen up.
Yes, sir.
Feet up the table, please. Notebooks are out.
I don't have a notebook.
Roland, please face forward.
Yeah, how's the car look?
You got me some notebook money? Looks like. Hope you know this is gonna crumple my backpack as the days go by.
Get a notebook then.
My notebook ran out of fresh
Go
pages.
to your guidance
What
counselor, they
first
will
business
give you
is
a
that?
free notebook.
Unless you do your thing.
Can you break fast for Riley too? He's in the same study hall.
Riley, what? No.
Why not? I need him.
Why do you need Riley?
It'd be faster.
No, I think he just wants to get out of it, so no.
It'd be faster. Come on.
All right, I'm gonna back up to a couple things. Roland, put your feet off the table. Thank you. Again, real quick, lug nuts go onto lug studs as your typical way to clamp your wheel to the wheel hub, which obviously holds it in place as you're driving down the road. We want to make sure that we are torquing the lug nuts up to the proper specifications. The reason for that is because then that allows for the proper clamping load, not only for your tire, but also for your brakes. Okay, we're going to learn more about that when we actually get into the brake lab. But the lug nuts do more than just hold your wheel up. All right, it's a very, very critical component of that. We want to make sure that we're not over torquing, just due to the fact that because we are stretching that lug stud out to create the clamping force. If you over torque, it over stretches, which then fatigues that metal, and then eventually that could potentially break that stud, causing some pretty disastrous consequences. Some vehicles like Volkswagen use a lug bolt instead of a lug stud to lug nut combo. And that's the case, it operates the same way. We still can torque it. It's just a different way of doing things, so don't be surprised. What else do we got here? We obviously balance the tires. We put it in a machine. It spins the tire. There's a computer then that senses and calculates out where the load imbalances are in the wheel, and then it is able to calculate how much weight and where we put that weight to be able to counterbalance the that. So as the wheel is spinning down the road, it's going to obviously be balanced and not cause additional vibrations, tramp and shimmy that can cause damage to our steering suspension systems, along with abnormal tire wear and all this sort of stuff, okay? Now, if the tire is not balanced and I'm driving at a high speed, that could also cause me to potentially not have full control of the vehicle, right? So those are a couple things that we talked about yesterday. We also are going to start getting into tread patterns that can be worn into the tire due to many different factors. We're also going to talk about how to rotate your tires, which apparently might be a little controversial, my take on it, but it is what it is. So, one thing about tires, they're making contact with the ground. They create friction, right? It's going to cause traction and cushioning. Tires are going to wear out. Surprise, surprise. As the tires wear, if you have any issues with your steering, suspension, any issues potentially with your inflation of the tires, that is going to be compounded over a long period of time, and it's going to show itself as wear patterns. So this can show up as vibrations, vibrations in the steering wheel. You notice you're going down the road, your steering wheel is kind of shaking back and forth. What's causing that? That's not how it's supposed to be. It could be abnormal wear patterns, as we just discussed. Okay. Now again, in a perfect scenario, your tire tread is making contact evenly across the road over 70,000, 80,000 miles, and it is equally taking off across the entire board. Steering wheel pull, what is that? If I'm driving down the road and I were to theoretically let go of my steering wheel, if everything's perfect, my car should go straight, right? However, if I have tire issues, if I theoretically let go, my vehicle might wander off to the left-hand side gradually, or it might wander off to the right side gradually. Again, depending on where that tire issue is located at in the vehicle as you're driving. There could be some other symptoms. One thing that is very, very important that you understand. These same symptoms of vibrations, abnormal tire pattern wear, steering wheel pull, could also be caused by the steering and suspension components being faulty. It could also be a fault of poor wheel alignment. Okay? Every time that my vehicle is driving down the road, it is aging. The components are being subjected to many, many different things, and over time, those components are going to wear out and fail, causing misalignment, causing suspension components not to act as they need to keep the tire on the ground. So we have to ask ourselves first and foremost, where is this happening on my vehicle? What's happening? And when is it happening? So it's not just simply, oh, if it is this, it is this. Okay? Sometimes it's multiple things combined together causing it. So hey, I need new tires, awesome, I'm just going to spend $1,000 on new tires. I don't want to just slap those new tires on expecting that fix the problem. Sometimes I might have to buy the new tires, but then when I buy the new tires, get in alignment. When I get in alignment, I might find out that there's some suspension components that need to be replaced in addition to it. Okay? Don't neglect that. Okay? Otherwise, your tires are not going to last as long as intended. All right, 2 things that we can for sure check off the list in regards of stuff we can prevent is properly inflating the tires. But full stop. Okay, if you want to prolong the life of your tires, check out the tire placard sticker on the B column on the driver's side, and keep your tires within that range or at that amount in all driving conditions throughout the duration of the tire, and it's going to most likely wear as evenly as it can. Okay. Now, if your tires are constantly being driven and they're underinflated, that can cause many, many issues going down the road. I don't even know why you have that outgrown. You guys shouldn't even be on your Chromebook. Okay, it is a destructive problem, underinflation. Typically speaking, if I've got a tire and I have it underinflated, right? What's ending up happening is I'm actually riding on the outer edges of that tire. So the only part of that tire that's actually making contact with the road over a period of time is the outside and the inside of the tire. Okay, so that tread gets thinner, while the middle of that tire, because it's not making as much forceful contact, it's not going to wear out as quickly.
Kind of fighting.
No, that's going to be fun for you. Other things to keep in mind about underinflated tires. It's going to lower your miles per gallon on the vehicle. And the reason for that is very simple. Underinflated tires means that you have higher rolling resistance, which means it takes more force to actually get the tires to go down the road because you have more grip, essentially, more friction. So your engine has to work harder, which means you're burning more gas. So if you want to be able to meet or exceed the manufacturer's miles per gallon rating for the vehicle, have properly inflated tires. Also, something to keep in mind, the number one cause of tire blowout is due to underinflated tires. Okay? What ends up happening is that tire, where it's beaded, might slip off of the wheel flange, and all of a sudden we got a catastrophic de-inflation event. Granted, it won't have a lot of air power to begin with. But you don't want to be going out down Highway 41, Caden, when that's happening. Crazy. All right, overinflation is just as bad as underinflation. Both problems are probably as frequent as the other ones.
That was an accident, I swear.
So again, if a person doesn't realize that they have a tire placard sticker on their V-filler and that's the tire pressure that they should be filling it up to, they're probably just looking on the sidewall and filling it up to the max rating on it. You're overinflating the tire by a significant amount typically too. Now all of a sudden, what you're literally doing is ballooning out that tire, so then as it's making contact with the road, it's literally only making contact with that center patch. So now all of a sudden you have less contact patch, less grip. You also have less cushioning because the tire is actually harder. So it's not as easily able to forgive and cushion the ride as you're driving. Okay? So overinflation, wear in the center, produces a harder ride. Okay, in that case, you have to take air out while the tire is cold and get that down to the proper specification. Okay? Now, here's a picture of kind of an over-exaggeration of underinflated tires versus overinflated tires, where those wear patterns are going to be at in comparison to a properly inflated tire that's going to be able to have its full tread make contact with the ground, and it's going to wear evenly or as evenly as possible. Okay? I would recommend that you are probably drawing these images in your notebooks right now, because they are good visual representations of what this is going to potentially look like. It even says right there, know this picture of tire inflation problems for the test. Can't get any more obvious than that.
What's the guy doing out there?
Changing tires. Like,
Can I go out there and help?
No.
Just getting pretty warm.
no, I want to emphasize again that tire wear is not going to necessarily show up immediately, right? Hey, Mr. Getzke, I've ran my tires overinflated for 15 miles. Is it going to look like this? Probably not. Okay? However, if you've driven your tires for 10,000 miles overinflated or underinflated, then yes, you can start to expect these wear patterns to start materializing on the tire. Okay? So think more long term in regards to how this wears, not short term. Okay?
You know what the overinflated one's gonna look like? Trailer tires.
Right?
They said that shape to them, you know?
Yep. But again, that's exaggerated, obviously. I would not expect you guys to actually lift a tire up if it's underinflated and to be able to visually see a difference. You're most likely not going to be able to with modern day tires. Okay? Again, the drawing is exaggerated just to emphasize kind of how it would roll. Okay? All right, tire rotation. This is not just taking a tire and spinning it in a circle. That's not the tire rotation that we're talking about. Tire rotation that we're talking about is the routine maintenance of moving a tire to a different location on the vehicle. Typically under manufacturer guided specific ranges. In most cases, I want to say it's probably going to be every other oil change. Would probably be a good interval to follow. There are some people that will actually rotate the tires every oil change. That's okay too. More frequently is better than not frequently.
Is it like every 10,000-ish miles?
It could be up to that, yeah. So maybe once or twice a year. Now, the question I have for you is this. Why would we want to move the tire on our vehicle to a different location? What are we trying to prevent? And how is rotating a tire actually preventing that? Liam, what you got?
Even tread wear, like we're trying to get it so it's all even.
Yep, we're trying to get all tires to wear as evenly as possible. Okay, this extends the life of my tire. Just even wear as much as possible. Think about this, if I'm spending $1,000 on 4 tires, or maybe $1,500 on 4 tires, that's a big investment. That's expensive. And if I'm trying to buy a tire every 3-4 years because they're wearing out, man, that can add up. And we got to remember, tires are going to be maintenance items that do need to be replaced, just like an oil filter would. Yes, it's not as frequently, but is there a way for us to extend the life of those tires as much as we possibly can? Yes, through tire rotation. Okay? Now, how does rotating my tires, moving a tire to a different location on a vehicle, help make all of my tires wear more evenly?
If you have like a wear spot on it where like front passenger, you have your alignment's a little off, it's wearing them like it's not really badly. It causes like an uneven ride, it causes tires.
Yep. Again, in a perfect world, all of my suspension components, all of my steering components, all my driving habits, everything would be perfect. And it would wear out evenly across the board at all 4 positions on my vehicle. Okay, we don't live in that perfect world. And as vehicles age, steering and suspension components fatigue and sag and aren't doing the job that they're supposed to do. And they wear out at different rates. Okay? Which means my front passenger tire might be out of alignment because, oh, I hit that side on a curb once. My front driver's side tire might be a little underinflated. My rear tire might be out because the bushings are bad. Whatever that may end up being, it could be 1,000 different reasons. If I leave one tire in one position for the life of that tire, it's going to encounter that problem every day, all the time. So it's going to wear at a particular rate. And that rate's going to be different than all the other tires. So if I'm frequently moving that tire around to different spots, I'm not isolating that tire just to those issues on that one corner. Okay? I'm exposing all tires to that same issue. So now I'm giving kind of a break to the other tires that are in that spot. Again, we're trying to make the tire wear as evenly possible. Okay? And all we're doing is literally taking it off and moving it. It's nothing overly sophisticated. Okay? Now, when we do rotate tires, there are specific patterns that we should probably follow. Okay? And again, if you will go up to an auto technician and ask them, hey, how should I rotate a tire? Right? You ask 5 of them, you're going to get 6 different responses. Because there are many, many various different opinions out here on what you should do or what you should follow. So I'm going to present to you my thoughts on what you should follow with the understanding that there's really no wrong way of doing this so long as you are doing it and you are doing it the same pattern every time. So if you have a favorite way of doing things, hey, have at her, okay? Probably the 2 most common type of pattern rotations is going to be our forward cross and our rearward cross. This is a pattern that you should know for the test.
Both of them?
Both of them. Okay? And they're not difficult to understand. My forward cross is if my vehicle was a front-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive vehicles mean that my front axis right here is the one receiving the power from the engine. My rearward cross is for rear-wheel drive vehicles. and this is the rotation pattern I'm going to follow if my rear wheels are receiving the engine power. Okay? So what's the difference between the two? Well, let me give you kind of a shortcut on the easy way to remember this. Whichever vehicle, or I should say this, how the vehicle receives its power, whatever axle, whichever tires receive the power from the engine, those move in a straight line. So in my forward cross, front wheel drive vehicle, my front wheels receive the power, I move those straight back. In a rearward cross for a rear wheel drive vehicle, rear tires receive the power, so in that case, I move those straight. In this case, straight forward instead of back. So far, so good? The other tires that used to be in those spots, those what we're going to do is we're actually going to move up, but then we're going to actually literally move it to the other side. So we're going to cross those over. That's why it's called a forward cross, because we're moving forward when we're crossing them. A rearward cross, same difference here. We're taking the front tires and we're crossing them and moving them backwards. Yeah.
Is the X pattern for like all-wheel drive then?
No, that's a good question. Okay, all-wheel drive. What would we do for all-wheel drive? Most all-wheel drive vehicles are forward or front-wheel drive biased. What that means is most of the time, an all-wheel drive vehicle, my front wheels are doing the work. And then only sometimes does engine power get sent to the back. Okay? In that case, I would treat it like a front-wheel drive vehicle. I would do this pattern. Okay? Now, there are some all-wheel drive vehicles that are rear wheel biased, which means most of the engine power is in the rear wheels, and only sometimes does it send it up to the front wheels. Again, if you know that about your vehicle, then I would follow the rear-wheel drive, rearward cross. Okay. If I have a 4x4 pickup truck or SUV, following this because again, most of the time, rear-wheel drive.
Yeah, you're driving your wheel drive. Hopefully, all the time.
Yes. Okay. Sometimes you might throw it in 4-wheel drive, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So that kind of accommodates for most of the issues that you're probably going to find in terms of the drivetrain for the vehicle. Okay. Now, the reason why I like these patterns over other types of ways to do it, okay, I'm gonna compare why I don't necessarily enjoy or think the X pattern is a good choice. If I start here, I'm looking at the front driver's side. It goes down here, and eventually it goes up here, and then it eventually ends up here, and then ends up back to where it began. That tire, through its life, is going to be rotated at all 4 positions on the vehicle. Okay? That's good. The X pattern here, if I start up here in the front driver's side, is only going to cross down to here, and then it ends up going back up here. Okay? So it will never actually get rotated from here to here on these 2 positions. So that's why I don't really care for that. But again, there's nothing wrong with this. You're still rotating the tire. And as long as you're consistent with one of these patterns, you're probably doing better than most people. Okay? Now, a couple things we have to take into consideration, not just, hey, is it front wheel drive or is it rear wheel drive? But we have to ask ourselves, what kind of tires do we have? Are they asymmetrical, symmetrical, or directional tires? Okay? If I have a symmetrical tire, I can rotate it however I need to. Okay? Because the inside is the same as the outside, it can go on any spot on the vehicle. If I had an asymmetrical tire, the inside tread is the same as the outside, And that can be rotated just like a symmetrical tire. It can literally go on any part of the vehicle, any corner of the vehicle, I should say. However, directional tires, because they can only rotate in one direction, or only should be rotating in one direction, we can only use a front to rear type rotation. Okay, so even if it's front wheel drive, even if it's rear wheel drive, it's directional. I can only take these tires and swap them back and forth on one side because this is rotating this way, this has to rotate this way, this one's got to rotate the other way. Okay, and that's just the way that the tires are designed to go. Okay, so it's important that before you take the tires off, hey, let's check to make sure they're not directional. Right? Oh, we verified that it's symmetrical tire, cool, we can do whatever we need to. Hey, this tire's directional, we need to change it up and can't do a crossing motion on that. Some vehicles also have different size tires for the rear in comparison to the front, right? I might have a 16-inch rim on the front, I might have an 18-inch rim on the back side. If that's the case, I don't want an 18-inch wheel here and a 16-inch wheel there, so I can only swap them side to side. That is not very common, so it's not something that you would necessarily see too often, but it's something that we need to obviously consider and check before we do this. And then finally, if you have a full-size spare tire, like the F-150 out in the shop, the manufacturer might tell you to rotate it, the spare tire in with your other normal rotation. Okay, so that changes the pattern up a little bit. Okay, so we still have a forward or rearward cross, okay, but instead of sending both tires back, we just send this tire back, okay. This tire now becomes the spare tire, and then our spare tire jumps over here. And then these two tires cross to go forward. Okay, it's just an additional step to incorporate that spare tire into this. Same kind of concept here if it's rear wheel drive. These two go forward. This one would normally go over here, but instead we kind of bypass this and swap it in with the spare and send that one down. Okay? So that's kind of the pattern for incorporating our spare tire, or the default one. Any questions on those patterns? Mr. Gutsky, what do you do? If I'm going to be honest with you, I don't do any of these.
Yeah, you don't.
Okay. My tire rotation is literally taking the tires off, looking at how much tread is left on all of them, seeing if there is any kind of pattern to it, and I usually put the tread, the tire with the most tread up in the front, because then I have more grip and traction for steering. Right? So it's just, again, that's just how I do it. That's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just kind of, right? But I'm consistent with it. All right, and I just monitor and see if any patterns come up with the wear. Typically, I'm on top of things. If I start to see a wear pattern, I know it's probably suspension, steering, all that sort of fun stuff. All right, Tech A says the wear pattern of the tire indicates its need to be rotated. Tech B says the tire should be rotated at regular intervals. Who is right?
Is there another one or no?
No, that's it. That's the last one.
Are we done for the day?
No.
Why not? Come on, get me.
Yeah.
I'm going to the
Okay,
shop.
gotcha.
Get me.
I keep on my cookie card. Hold on.
Yep, yep. I'll wait. No worries. Gotcha, Ben.
Just tell Ben what.
Gotcha. That's so fun to do that off your computer.
You could just change people's answers.
You could.
Don't do it.
I could change people.
The code was like, interesting. That gives me a
Kevin, what
dialogue.
number are you?
Did we get everybody? Alright. The fun part is I'll know it because your names are attached to the number. So when you scan it, your name pops up.
Yeah, but
right next to you.
you're not gonna say anything, are you?
Oh, I would say something.
Like,
Be like, that's not yours.
oh, I think.
And then I would call out who it was.
Jesus Christ.
So then that way they can fix it. Alright, 55% of you selected the correct answer. The correct answer is Tech B.
Fuck!
That's not the language that
Wait.
should be responding with. Here's the fun part. Tech A says that a wear pattern on the tire indicates it needs to be rotated. If you are noticing that a wear pattern is starting to develop, it's probably due to the fact that you are not rotating the tires, and it's too late. Well, I wouldn't say it's too late, but it's too late to prevent that wear from happening. The whole idea behind why we do tire rotations is to prevent uneven wear. And it's not the reason why we would go in and then do a rotation. We have to make sure that Tech B is correct in stating we want to do it at regular intervals. Okay? To make sure that we are maintaining and having even tread wear as much as possible. Okay, fun part about this. When you go to actually take a tire off to rotate it, you rotate the tires, you move it to the new spots, you put the tire back on. We're going to thread the lug nut in by hand. Maybe run it down with a ratchet just to get it snug, so that way it's not loose. We want to make sure that the vehicle is lowered with the full weight of the vehicle on the tire. And then at that point in time, we use a torque wrench to set the proper specification, and then we are tightening up the lug nuts to meet that. But we're also then going to be following a specific pattern. Okay, we just don't go in a circle. That's no bueno, okay? Well, the goal of torquing up our lug nuts is to make sure that we have an even clamping force across the entire wheel and wheel hub. Okay? Some people will go so far as to say, hey, my final lug nut torque is 100 foot-pounds. I'm actually going to start out by torquing everything up to 60 foot-pounds. Do that once. Okay, now I'm going to go to 80 foot-pounds. And then finally end at 100 foot-pounds. They
That's
put
a
it up.
waste of time.
Okay? It's not a waste of time.
Yes, it is.
Okay? It's making sure or ensuring that your clamping force is applied equally across the entire surface.
You're saying if I was paid by labor, I would do a lot of that.
I would say most people should do it that way. Okay, most people don't because they don't want to do it properly. Okay? Now, big thing on this idea. Your lug nuts are not just holding your wheel on. It's doing more than that. And again, we'll talk more about this when we get into steering suspension and our brake units. But you have to understand that clamping force is also holding your brake rotor together on your wheel hub. How important are your brakes? Pretty important. So we want to make sure that that force is equally clamped so that way we don't have a rotor that's warped and has excessive lateral runouts, which then can cause brake issues down the road. Okay, so this is a pretty critical step that most people just kind of take advantage of and say, well, I'll throw it on there and it's good enough. We have to understand the full idea behind why we're doing this. It's not just for the wheels, it's for other systems as well. And we always want to make sure that we are following a cross pattern. Okay, so that's what this X is. It's a cross pattern. Emphasized, highlighted, underlined. Okay, very, very important. We use a cross pattern.
It looks more like the asterisk symbol. There's no car with the S4 lug nuts.
The Protege does. Smaller cars do. Dakota, what's up? Now, the reason why I put the full weight of the vehicle on the tires and then torque it is to make sure that obviously if I'm driving down the road, the full weight of the vehicle's on those tires, I'm putting a clamping force on that that's going to be how the vehicle's riding down the road. Yeah.
I'll give anybody in here who can torque a wheel without it being on the ground to 150 foot-pounds. Give anybody $20. You're by yourself.
150 foot-pounds with the wheel up in the air?
Yes.
Yeah, that's always fun too. Yeah, wheels are meant to spin. If you're trying to add torque or twisting force to a tire, it's up in the air, you're going to do one of these things. It's going to be chasing it around. So that's another reason why we torque it when it's on the ground, because the friction holds the tire in place so you can actually hit that torque specification.
Technically, Gasky, what if you just like hold the tire in the air though?
Yeah,
You're not strong enough.
What if you put the handbrake on?
Handbrakes are only for the rear tires.
Yeah, what if I did? He said any tire.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I was thinking the back tires when you were thinking that. so
Any
you're
tire.
about it.
Go for it.
I mean, I could do it too. I mean, I don't know. I'd feel bad taking $150 for it.
I'd say 150 bucks.
Yeah, you
I'd
said
say
20.
bucks
You said
at 100.
No, I say it's $150 at 20 foot-pounds. Right?
No, I don't think so, guys.
All right.
Um,
The pattern that you are going to follow. It's like kindergarten class. Remember in kindergarten class, they gave you a piece of paper and like, hey, draw me a star? And they taught you to draw a star?
Put your phone down.
I can't draw a good
So who has the phone?
It's right here. It's in his hand. I see it. I'm holding on.
Hey,
Where's
okay,
my
just
pocket?
give him his phone back. In most cases, most vehicles are going to have 5 lug nuts. Okay? So, this is the pattern that we're following for a 5 lug wheel. It's a star pattern.
Or something close to that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going across the center as much as we can. And we're doing this as many times as we need to. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, hey, it's 100 foot-pounds, so I'm going to tighten this up and torque it to 100 foot-pounds. It clicks. Awesome. I go to the second one. 100 foot-pounds. Click. Awesome. 100 foot-pounds. Click. 100 foot-pounds. Click. 100 foot-pounds. Click. I'll guarantee you, you go back to this first one, you're going to be able to go a little bit more before it clicks. Because again, that wheel is kind of going on, it's trying to as even as possible. That one might be a little loose. So you do it a second time. You might have to do it a third time. You keep going around until eventually it goes click, 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 and nothing moves.
Yes, you did that in the wrong order.
Click, 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 boom. Okay? And again, it's not a bad idea to maybe do 60 foot-pounds all the way around. Then we go to 80 foot-pounds. And then we end with 100 foot-pounds as an example of how we build up to that final torque. Okay? And again, emphasize, emphasize, emphasize. This is for making sure that we have proper clamping load across all 5 lug nuts to hold your wheel in place, but also your brakes and everything else. Okay? So it's important. Now obviously if you have a 6 lug wheel, the pattern's a little different. Okay? But all you got to do is, okay, where's the center? Come on, where's the center? I want to try to go across the center as often as I possibly can.
And you gotta like.
Okay? Hey, here's the center on a 7 or an 8 lug wheel. Right? The idea is I can come in here, I'm going across that center as much as I can. But you're always going across on the opposite side. So on and so forth. Again, if I've got a 4 lug nut wheel, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the idea. I think the most lugs we got is a 6. I think the F-150 is a 6 lug nut wheel. All right. All right, any other questions that you guys might have for the good of the order?
No, can we be done now?